Not realizing I was taken aback, my husband boldly declared, "Alice, let's sell your parents' house. It's a great deal. She helped us out, so we got this amazing offer. Overlook my affair, will you?" "No way I am selling it, you cheater. Enough with the disrespect. My name is Alice. I've been married to Tom for 5 years now. Our beloved son has just turned 4. Ours was what you might call a shotgun wedding, and we had our child soon after getting married. We've been trying our best to navigate parenting together. We hope to continue supporting each other and even wanted another child." I assumed my husband felt the same way. However, his enthusiasm for parenting suddenly cooled off around the time our son, Mike, turned 3. It probably started with Mike's terrible twos. As soon as adorable Mike began showing signs of independence, Tom checked out of parenting. Given his tendency to quickly lose interest, it's surprising he focused on parenting for 3 years. Around the same time, something shocking happened. My parents fell one after the other and passed away. It's ironic that they were so close yet had to go to heaven at the same time. To maintain the family home they left behind, I've been going back once a month. I have a brother, but he lives far away and works, so the house's upkeep has mainly fallen on me. Houses deteriorate quickly when uninhabited. So, I do things like air out the rooms and weed the garden. The family home is an hour's drive away. Tom used to accompany me at first, but his visits became less frequent, and now it's just Mike and me. Mike loves running around the spacious house and garden. I'm reluctant to let go of this house that holds so many memories. It's been 2 years since my parents passed away. Maybe it's time to let go of the house. These thoughts cross my mind. I came home a bit earlier than usual one day to find an unfamiliar car parked in our driveway. It was a cute, compact car. Inside, there were several large stuffed animals, like the ones you win at arcades. Why is this car here? I had a bad feeling. Holding sleeping Mike, I quietly opened the front door. Cute pumps were haphazardly left by the entrance. And along the hallway to the bedroom, clothes were scattered. Shirts, pants, dresses. I felt the blood drain from my face. I knew immediately whose clothes they were. They were my husband's. But the dress wasn't mine. Nor did I recognize the pumps. Someone else must be in the bedroom with my husband. Why, how, why? Part of me was panicking, but another part remained calm. This was an affair. I needed evidence. I started recording the situation with my phone. Should I confront them now by entering the bedroom? That's right, I thought about bursting in and confronting my husband and his affair partner. Just then, sleeping Mike murmured softly. His voice brought me back to reality. What if my husband lashed out in anger, or the affair partner caused a scene, putting my son in danger? I'd never considered my husband to be that kind of person, but suddenly I was worried. With a heavy heart, I decided against storming into the scene of the affair. I turned back, went to my car, and took a deep breath. I won't let him get away with this. Just before the time Mike and I were supposed to come home, the front door opened. Out came a flashy, gal-like woman and my husband. They were all smiles, waving goodbye to each other, even sharing a kiss at parting. I made sure to capture that moment with my camera. Mike was being looked after by my friend. My friend readily agreed to my abrupt request, please take care of Mike for 2 hours. I'll explain later, without asking any questions. I don't know what's going on, but you can talk to me about anything, she said. So reassuring. So grateful. Right after the affair partner left, I stood up. First, I'll confront my husband. The affair partner can wait. Feeling like I was about to have a fight, I opened the door to our house. I'm home. Wah, welcome back. That was quick. My husband was clearly flustered. Of course, he would be. The clothes he'd scattered were still lying all over the floor. The bedroom was probably still a mess. That woman, if you're going to cheat, at least clean up your mess before you leave. Who was that just now? Wah, what do you mean just now? His agitation fanned the flames of my anger. Unbelievable. I have proof. Don't play dumb. Admit to your affair, you scumbag. Kissing right at the front door, how does that make you feel? No way. My husband yelled, then fell silent, his mouth opening and closing wordlessly. Like fish in a pond. Who is she? What's the meaning of this? How long has this affair been going on? She was introduced by a senior, and we've been seeing each other since last Valentine's. Since last year. That's unexpectedly long. And last Valentine's, that's around the time he lost interest in parenting. Neglecting our beloved son for his affair partner? Unbelievable. My husband was flustered, looking around frantically. I have something to say. Don't expect that I'm going to listen to anything you say. Just wait a moment. With that, he ran to the living room and came back with a stack of papers from the dining area. Look at this. My husband aggressively pushed the papers towards me. Reluctantly, I glanced at them. What's this? A real estate sales contract? That's right. Is this some kind of quiz? Here's the question. When the wife confronted her husband about his affair, he produced a real estate sales contract. What exactly is the husband trying to communicate? As if I could solve such a tough question. I skimmed the papers with growing irritation. As I read on, I felt a growing sense of urgency that this couldn't be overlooked. Because the documents detailed the sale of my family home. Wait a minute. Why is my family home being sold? My husband's affair was a bolt from the blue, but selling the family home was utterly unexpected. Apparently, the correct answer to the earlier quiz is, the affair was for real estate purposes. The truth seems even more elusive now. My husband began to explain. That woman earlier. Mia, she knows this incredible woman named Layla. Layla is into all sorts of businesses, even runs seminars. And she's really impressive. I've been to a few seminars with Mia, and even my parents have come to trust Layla completely. She even knows celebrities. She's offered to buy your family home. It's a win-win, she gets the property below market value. And we get more money than going through a realtor. I met with Layla today to finalize the deal. So, Mia, the affair partner, and now a new character, Layla, have appeared. Connections with celebrities. Seminars. Real estate transactions. My excited husband. Things are starting to make sense. My husband's interests have shifted to a very dubious area. While it's ridiculous, it's also somewhat understandable. But I don't want to be involved. Oblivious to my dismay, my husband made a bold proposition. Alice. Let's sell that house. No one's living there anymore, and it won't be a problem if it's gone, right? We can make a fortune from this unnecessary property. Isn't it amazing? Mia made this great deal possible, so overlook my affair, will you? What? And you know, Mia told me about this great new property for sale. Let's use the money from selling your family home as a down payment and buy it. What are you talking about? I'm talking about our future. It's a spacious, beautiful house with a guest room. I can host seminars there. And when there's no seminar, I'll invite Mia over. Sounds great, right? I'm appalled. I felt all the strength drain from my body. You're being scammed. This is a shady deal, you should back out. I was about to say this but stopped myself. Here's a question. Why didn't the wife scold her deceived husband? The answer is simple. Because he's no longer my husband. Overlook his affair? How dare he plan to sell my precious family home without consent? Invite Mia to the guest room? What does he intend to do in a house where his wife and son live? Have I really been married to such a fool for 5 years? No, I refuse. What? I raised my voice from the depths of my being. I refuse. How dare you propose selling my family home for some scoundrel like you lowlife. I was surprised to hear myself use the word scoundrel, but at that moment, it hardly mattered. What? That's going to be a problem. We'll lose Layla's trust. I couldn't care less. I threw the stack of papers away. I'm leaving this house. Where's my travel bag? In the bedroom. The very place my foolish husband and Mia were getting cozy. Damn, I don't want to go there. But I have no choice but to fetch my bag. Ignoring my husband's wailing, I packed our things. I grabbed whatever was important for me and Mike and left. No way I'm staying here any longer. After leaving the house, I picked up Mike. I explained to my friend that I had barged in on my husband's affair and gave her thank you sweets for her sudden help. She sympathized and expressed her concern. Then, I knocked on the door of a law firm to discuss how my husband was trying to sell my property without my consent. I also mentioned his obsession with dubious seminars. The lawyer listened empathetically. The consultation fee was $50 for 30 minutes, not cheap at all. I paid a total of $200 for 2 hours. But it was worth it, as I learned all the possible measures I could take. My husband called around noon the next day. Let's talk, he said. It was his lunch break. My guess is that he spent the previous night crying to his parents, overslept in the morning, and finally decided to call during his lunch break. His tone suggested he thought I had cooled down by now. Right. I've cooled down all right. All my love for you has completely vanished. Yeah, I think we need to talk too. Right? You suddenly ran off, and I was worried. That irked me, but I held back. Arguing wouldn't get us anywhere. Maybe it's impossible for us to continue as a couple, don't you think? Exactly. I feel the same way. I can't believe you can't see the greatness of Layla and Mia. If you were willing to move to the next stage with me like my parents, maybe we could have continued as a couple. No, that's not going to work for me. What's this next stage he's talking about? Let's not get sidetracked with unnecessary comments. You live freely with Mike. I'll have a good time with Mia and my parents. We're getting a divorce. Understood. But I'm not selling the family home. Oh, about that. His serious tone lightened a bit. Give me that building as alimony. What? It's only natural for you to pay me alimony since you can't appreciate the connection with those two. Listen, this is America. You're the one who had to pay child support to me since I will take care of Mike alone. That's where you and I differ in understanding. Enough already. I don't need the law according to Scoundrel Island. I'm done engaging with this. Fine, I'll get a lawyer. It's better for you to just hand it over quietly than to go through a lawsuit. I wonder if my husband has a lawyer versed in the laws of Scoundrel Island. Go ahead. I'll also get a lawyer. Based on American law, I'll demand child support. And about the divorce, I want it done now. I could almost hear my husband's deep sigh over the phone. Annoyingly so. But the thought of me bringing divorce papers to his office must have been too much for him, as he showed up at the municipal office promptly. My husband and I didn't exchange a single word as we filed for divorce. 2 mom friends came along to sign as witnesses. At this point, even Layla and Mia's signatures would have been fine by me. After divorcing Tom, I took Mike and returned to my hometown. I decided to live in the now empty family home. I left all the troublesome dealings with Tom to my lawyer. Within a few months, Mike had fully adapted to the new environment. His terrible twos were starting to calm down. Fortunately, he didn't seem to miss Tom at all, so I had no regrets. I started working and was leading a fulfilling life. Then one day, Tom called. I didn't want to answer. That's what lawyers are for, right? Ignore, ignore, ignore. But the enemy was persistent. He called over and over from morning till night, and I finally snapped. I decided to answer the next call. It came within 10 minutes. This is it. Time to settle this. Stop bothering me. If you want to talk to my lawyer. Whoa. Is that the first thing you say after so long? Yeah. It's been months. But after being ignored so much, he should give up. What do you want? I apologize for the rough language, but under the circumstances, it's understandable. You're living in your family home, right? Yes, but then why can't you submit a change of address form? What? As I coldly responded to Tom's irrational outburst, a possibility crossed my mind. It was advice from the lawyer I had consulted before the divorce. I need it to sell your family home. Give me the address. Are you still on about that?
Yeah.
My point will prevail eventually, so you'll have to sell the house sooner or later. I just bought a new place and need the money fast. So I thought we'd get the paperwork done in advance. No, your point won't prevail, you know. Your lawyer is American too. Both lawyers were trying to find a middle ground through negotiation. According to my lawyer, the other side's lawyer is exasperated because Tom keeps insisting on legally untenable points. If it goes to court, Tom's lawyer might resign. Just curious, what were you planning to do after getting my address? Layla told me all about it. If I change your address and then I can change the building registration. You wouldn't know that, being clueless. But when I tried to change your address at the postal service, they said it didn't match the current address and wouldn't accept it. I wrote down your family home's address correctly. What gives? Changing the address and the building registration, huh? You know, that's a serious crime in America. Eh? Serious? What part of this is he focusing on? There's no doubt, this was the scheme that the lawyer I consulted, Brent, had warned me about. Changing someone's address without their knowledge, and then rewriting the property registration to sell it. Such schemes exist. To prevent becoming a victim, I temporarily moved my residency registration to a location other than my family home. It was my brother's place. Tom has no idea about my brother's address. He vaguely knows it's somewhere in that state. And just in case, I've also restricted access to my residency information. So, Tom can't change my address on his own. And selling my family home without my permission is even more out of the question. Thank you, Brent, for the advice. Crime? That's rude. I was just doing as Layla instructed. To Layla, you're just a handyman willing to commit crimes. And you probably had your affair partner Mia write a power of attorney, right? That's forgery of private documents, and using them is another crime. But, I already signed a contract with Layla for your family home. Mia said she had experience forging signatures and told me to leave it to her. Then Mia and Layla are accomplices. They're conspiring to frame you. What? Maybe Layla finally saw through Tom's foolishness. Probably, the plan to sell my family home got exposed to me too soon. The divorce happened in a flash. Negotiations related to the divorce weren't going smoothly either. They couldn't figure out how to take the family home from me. So, thinking they couldn't milk him anymore, they sold him a new property and ran away. Well, that's just speculation. Thinking of Tom bewildered on the other end of the phone, it's both pitiful and sad. Lately, Dad has started saying something similar to you. That Layla and Mia are suspicious. That we should consult the police. But that can't be. Oh, my father-in-law has come to his senses. Good for him. But it's no longer my concern. I think you should listen to him. After all, you're someone who easily gets heated up, loses sight of everything else when you focus on one thing. And can't distinguish between good and bad. You're just a fool. So, don't ever contact me again. With that, I hung up. Feeling refreshed after saying what I needed to, I blocked his number. Now, I can just watch from the sidelines. Afterward, Tom heeded his father's advice and went to the police, leading to the swift arrest of Layla and Mia. Turns out, the couple was in the business of fraud. Indeed, they had been targeting Tom all along. Unbeknownst to me, they had swindled a significant amount of money from Tom and his parents. The new property they introduced was actually second-hand. Tom and his parents were on the verge of being stripped of everything. Going to the police saved them just in time. However, Tom was scolded by the police for attempting to sell my family home without permission. He was lucky not to be prosecuted this time, but it would have been prison for him otherwise. I'm just relieved that Mike's father didn't end up a criminal. The incident is somewhat settled now. I changed my address to my family home from my brother's place. What an ordeal it's been. Later, through his lawyer, Tom inquired about the possibility of remarrying. As if. I told him to focus on paying child support instead of entertaining such convenient fantasies. It was not Tom but his parents who showed understanding to my blunt reply. Reflecting on how they had been misled by the Layla and Mia couple, they paid child support on behalf of Tom. Right. Being swayed by your son's affair partner is just crazy. Normally, you'd get angry and say, "Don't you dare cheat, you foolish son." Tom is expected to diligently pay child support every month. I've taken this experience to heart, reminding myself that I must raise Mike well. I am determined to nurture him into a person who can distinguish between right and wrong. I'll teach him how fraudsters operate, so he knows to avoid them. But maybe it's too early for talks on fraud and money. Mike is happily running around in the spacious backyard of my family home. Mom. I caught a grasshopper. Wow, that's great. Let's release it later, okay? Seeing Mike's bright smile makes me feel content. In this house where I grew up, I'll live freely and happily with my son, just the two of us. In our family, both parents have always worked, and Mom always prioritized her job, John reflected. Hearing John's words, I had initially thought his mother might not be very interested in family matters. My name is Lisa. I'm a 42-year-old part-time housewife. 8 years ago, I married John, who is 4 years older than me. Unfortunately, we haven't been blessed with children, and that's where we are now. True to his words, his mom was a total career woman. She's the complete opposite of me. She makes decisions quickly and acts on them immediately. I'm often described as laid back by others, and I do admire people like his mom who are so decisive. When we got married, I thought she might be a bit intimidating, but after having a good talk, I found that even though she's straightforward, she's always thinking of others and makes sound decisions. I've come to really love her. Since my own mother has passed away, I've always turned to her for support. However, John doesn't seem to like his strict mother much and often rebels against her. It seems to have been this way for a long time. He always holds on to grudges about things he didn't like, saying things like, "This happened then," or "It was like that at that time." From what I hear, I don't think her actions were wrong, but he seems to have this idea that, as the eldest son, he should be treated more favorably. But she treated his sister, Alice, in the same way. She's just fair to everyone. It seems like Alice admires their mom, so maybe it's just John being stubborn. John's mom retired 2 years ago. That same year, John's dad passed away, and she lost her spirit all at once. She always said she wanted to travel with Dad after retiring. But that dream never came true for her. Our lives changed drastically from that point. Lately, something seems off with Mom, John mentioned. He started saying this, and when we visited his parents' house, I too noticed that her behavior had changed. She would forget things she had just said or couldn't remember where she had placed items. I had a bad feeling about this. Yet, he didn't seem to offer her the support she needed. So, she's finally lost it, huh? Well, if that's the case, just put her in a home. It's not our place to interfere. She worked so much, she must have the money, he said carelessly. I couldn't hide my anger at his words. She's your mother, isn't she? Think about her more. But he just sneered. You're practically brainwashed by her, he retorted. Clearly, he was not pleased that I admired his mom. If you're going to say that, why don't you take care of her, he challenged. Feeling hopeless, I contacted Alice. Alice is a mother of 2, with her eldest in college and the youngest in middle school, and she also works part-time, leading a very busy life. I hadn't been in touch much, knowing how busy she was, but she's always been someone I could rely on. When I reached out to her, she immediately said she would take her mom to the hospital. I'm sorry I left everything to you. I'll take over from here, she assured me. Despite her reassurance, I was worried about John's mom and decided to accompany them to the hospital. After several visits and tests, she was diagnosed with dementia. The diagnosis suggested that the drastic change in her life after retirement, coupled with the loss of John's dad, might have triggered it. She was deemed in need of care. John, Alice, and Alice's husband all discussed the situation. Surprisingly, John said something I hadn't expected. We'll move in and take care of Mom. It's hard for Alice, with her kids, and all, he suggested. We lived in a rental close to his parents' house, so moving in wouldn't change our living situation much. On the other hand, moving back to his parents' house would mean a change in school districts for Alice's kids since they lived in the next town over. I prepared myself for the caregiving role. Since then, we've been living with her. She has lost some of her vigor, but when I take her outside, she lights up and sometimes talks like she used to. Because she loves being outdoors, it seems to cheer her up whenever we go out. Seemingly thanks to that, her dementia hasn't progressed much. On John's day off, I invited him to join me for a walk. I'm tired from work. Why go out of our way to do that? The weather is nice today, so why not go to a hotel restaurant for lunch? Despite he promising to take care of her, it's been me who's actually been looking after her. What does he think of me and her? But, going out for lunch might be a good idea. It's the off-season now, so I'll look for a day trip spot. When I told her about the idea, she was delighted, so we took my car to the hotel. After enjoying the fancy meal, we returned home, but I couldn't find John. He hadn't mentioned going anywhere. Worried, I called him, but he didn't answer. Instead, I got a message right away. He said he was out drinking with friends and would be back late. I had a bad feeling. Frustrated with him not returning, as I was about to go to bed, I heard a car outside. Peeking through the upstairs window curtains, I saw him getting out of an unfamiliar car. I quickly snapped a photo with my phone. It was too far to see clearly, but it seemed like a woman was driving. I couldn't tell much from this alone. But from that day, I decided to carefully watch his actions. 3 months have passed since then. Her condition seems to have improved a bit. The doctors said taking her out and doing brain exercises might be helping with the improvements. However, they mentioned it won't completely cure her, so we need to continue. What changed since then is I started teaching her a bit of my piano hobby and she began attending day services. Making new friends of her age seems to be a good stimulus for her. That was when I discussed about day services from a nursing home with John. Initially, he was all for putting her in a facility, but when it came to using daycare services, he said, that would just reduce the inheritance. Why don't you just take care of her at home, which was absurd. Despite he strongly opposing it as a waste of money, Alice stepped in saying, then why don't you take care of her for a day? Give Lisa a break. And we managed to start the daycare service. Alice picks up her mother for appointments and sometimes comes over to play with her kids. Plus, she brings me treats and side dishes when she visits. I want to emulate her energy. She's indeed her daughter. They get along well, but John seems to dislike it, recently coming home late and even working on weekends. I've been trying to make sure John doesn't feel left out by sharing daily stories and asking about his work when he's home. Yet, he responds condescendingly, you wouldn't understand work stuff anyway. Then, what am I supposed to do? However, one day, I was suddenly freed from these worries. What's with that luggage? I was surprised to see him with a suitcase as he was about to leave in the morning, so I asked. Oh, I have a business trip starting tonight. It's going through the weekend. 4 days. They just told me yesterday, such a hassle. Hearing that, I had no choice but to be convinced. But he looked somewhat restless and excited, despite complaining. Where are you going? Ooh, well, where was it again? They just told me yesterday, I need to check at the office. He said, avoiding eye contact. Okay. Take care then. I hurried him out as he was running late and closed the door. I felt something was off, and then mother-in-law spoke to me. Lisa, good morning. About this. Isn't this the brochure of the hotel we went for lunch with you? She was holding a brochure for the hotel, with part of it cut out. It was probably the one we got, which I thought we had thrown away because we didn't need it. Upon closer inspection, I realized the cutout part was a coupon. We exchanged looks. She went back to her bedroom and showed me her diary. She started keeping a diary after being diagnosed with dementia. It contained entries suspecting John's infidelity. She apologized to me. I'm sorry for keeping silent till now. I couldn't tell if what I wrote here was true, and I didn't know how to bring it up. Leading to this situation. For a moment, I was at a loss for words. All I could say was, "I see." Her face looked like she was about to cry. That's when I smiled. "Thank you. This gives me confidence." Her expression changed completely. I shared that I also suspected his infidelity but hadn't said anything, thinking it would upset her. She seemed to be well today. Almost as if she wasn't suffering from dementia at all. Although I was convinced of his infidelity, I wanted solid evidence. When she asked me if I was all right, I was able to clearly express my desire for a divorce. She started making a phone call after hearing this. About an hour later, the doorbell rang. It was someone from her former workplace. She used to work at a law firm, and this person was a lawyer specializing in divorce. I never imagined she would help sue her own son. I talked to the lawyer about what steps to take next. Then, the doorbell rang again. It was Alice. "I'm really sorry for my worthless brother." I was taken aback by her fervent apology, but her support was reassuring. The next day, we headed to the hotel in Alice's car. There, we spotted the car that had dropped off John a few times before. We also found him and a woman. I took photos of the scene and noticed something shocking. The woman was holding a small boy. My heart was racing. I remembered finding a child's toy in his bag once. When I asked, he said it might be from dining out with a colleague's family and that he'd return it to him. I had accepted that explanation, but perhaps it belonged to that child. After gathering evidence, we went back home. I was determined to proceed with the divorce and followed the plan. First, I called the moving company. "I consulted with you yesterday, but is it possible to move immediately?" The company checked and confirmed, "Yes, it's possible." We packed the essential belongings, and I called another service. An hour later, the movers arrived and quickly loaded our belongings. We left our stuff at Alice's place, and she had arranged a monthly rental apartment for me. Since her husband works in real estate, he found it quickly. I had one more task left. After the moving company left, another service arrived. "Are you here for the lock change?" "Yes." We nodded, and the work began immediately. Now, John can no longer enter this house. Since the house is in my mother-in-law's name, we don't need his permission for anything. The next morning, I went straight to the city office. I had to make sure, even though it seemed unlikely. If John had acknowledged a child out of wedlock, it would be recorded in the father's family registry. As a wife, I have the right to request his family registry, so I checked it. Just as I thought. Seeing it, I was shocked. He had an illegitimate child. The child I saw yesterday must be his. To cheat, have a child, and acknowledge it without saying anything is the worst. I have no feelings left for him. I'm determined to see this through. Then, in the evening, I got a call from my husband. "Hey. The key won't work." "What happened?" "Open up." "Huh? Since we changed the locks, of course your key won't work." "Changed them? Why? Your home isn't there anymore. Besides, we've moved out." "What?" I could hear the panic in his voice. Imagining his expression made me laugh. Leaving your dementia-stricken mother to your wife, having an affair, making a child, lying about a business trip to go to a hotel? And choosing the same hotel your wife and mother visited, all because there happened to be a coupon at home? Using your wife's coupon to go on a trip with your mistress is unbelievable. He was trying to say something, but his words were incoherent. He really thought I knew nothing. You should have divorced when you had a child. But then, there's the issue of taking care of your mother, right? That's why you couldn't divorce. After I said that, he finally spoke. It's not like that. I couldn't help but laugh at the expected response. Then, Alice, who was beside me, couldn't hold back and shouted at him. "Explain how it's not then." He was surprised to hear her voice. I played it cool and said, "Oh, it's on speakerphone, so everyone can hear this conversation." Alice, mother-in-law, and the lawyer were all here. "What are you doing?" "I didn't do anything. It's all a misunderstanding." I had never shouted at him before, but I raised my voice in anger at his denial. If it were a misunderstanding, it wouldn't be on the family registry. Don't you understand that your words insult not only me but also your mistress and your child? Do you plan to call the child a mistake? After that, he fell silent. I'm going to divorce you, so do whatever you want after that. Wait. That would be a problem. Huh? A problem? If we continued like this, I would be the one in trouble. But, what about Mother? As he said that, she shouted. Do you expect your divorced wife to take care of your mother? Apologize to Lisa first. Show some sincerity. Don't worry. I won't trouble you or your mistress. But remember, even when I'm gone, you won't get a penny of my inheritance. He fell silent. I opened my mouth, knowing this would be my final say. I was aware of your affair for a while, but I couldn't bring it up because of your mother. However, with the support of them, I've decided to divorce you. You turned out to be the worst husband, but I was fortunate to have the best mother-in-law and sister-in-law by my side. For that alone, I am thankful to you, John. After saying that and hanging up the phone, mother-in-law broke down in tears. Later, John and I officially divorced. Through the lawyer, I demanded share of the property. Since we sent a certified letter to his company, it seems he became uncomfortable there. But he can't quit because he needs to earn child support and living expenses. I received a substantial amount of property from my divorce. John's mother apologized for the trouble he caused and gave Alice and me a living will gift, instructing Alice to use the rest of her estate for hospital and facility fees. With Alice's eldest son landing a job and moving out, she is living with Alice's family. I bought a condo nearby and still maintain a close relationship with them. Encouraged by mother-in-law, I obtained a music therapy certification and now lead a fulfilling life, visiting to daycare services and other facilities to perform and teach piano. Is that all you got to say? At the sound of George's deep, booming voice, I recoiled in fear. This Christmas, having been belittled by Linda, not protected by Mike, and even my daughter got insulted. I thought things couldn't get any worse, yet something else seemed about to happen. I was on the verge of tears. My name is Emily. I started working right after middle school and had a shotgun wedding at 19. My parents were what you'd call irregular workers. With unstable employment came an unstable income. That's why I started working right after middle school. I wanted to be independent and to have my own cell phone. My husband, Mike, is 4 years older than me. We met at my place of work. I was captivated by Mike's flamboyant appearance and seemingly lavish lifestyle. We started dating and eventually had a shotgun wedding. At that time, I was 19 years old. Mike was 23 years old. I was only 19, so both families were understandably shaken. Especially Mike's grandfather, George, who was furious. You got a 19-year-old pregnant, he exclaimed, and reportedly, George hit Mike for it. George was strict, stern, and intimidating, feared by everyone in the family. Perhaps it was his insistence on a properly making amends that led to a grand wedding ceremony, with all expenses covered by my in-laws. At that time, I was treated like a princess, handled with great care and importance. And that was the peak of my mother-in-law Linda's kindness towards me. Now, 10 years into our marriage, Linda despises me. My in-laws run a family business, a company founded by George, who is still the acting CEO. A powerful, one-man CEO who overcame adversity to expand the company significantly. Linda oversees the administrative work as an executive. While Mike currently works for another company, he is expected to take over from George in the future. The company has 70 employees. And it seems to be performing well. The lifestyle of my in-laws is affluent, entirely different from any life I've ever known. The standard of living is completely unlike anything I've experienced in my life. Everyday meals, clothing, holidays, choosing a kindergarten for my daughter. At every turn, the difference between me and my in-laws became glaringly evident. To me, I was just living a normal life, but to Linda, I must have seemed poverty-stricken. Whenever Linda looked at me, she always frowned. At first, it was just subtle digs, but now she blatantly despises me as a low-class woman. From princess to servant, quite the demotion. Mike initially tried to mediate between us, aiming to keep the peace. That was the case for the first few years. But at some point, Mike started siding with Linda. This shift was likely because Mike was receiving an allowance from Linda. Linda has essentially bought Mike over. Mike's allowance from our household budget is properly allocated. $400 a month. I don't think it's an insignificant amount. Yet, Mike chose Linda's side. I wonder how much she's paying him. Another gloomy holiday season has arrived. Being self-employed, my in-laws are swamped with client greetings and employee year-end adjustments. I've become the default for handling household chores during this period. Between my own job and home duties, I take care of their household. Emily, make sure the laundry is done. Don't mix up the fabric softener for the towels. And the car wash too. I won't overlook any skimping on the drying. Dinner should be beef stew, remember, beef, not chicken or pork. We have different tastes than your impoverished palate. And don't leave any water droplets in the sink. Also, double-check the greeting cards for any address errors. Alright, understood. Feels like I'm a maid. I'd be motivated if there was a paycheck, but there's none. Not even a word of thanks. It's hard to find motivation. But Linda, supposedly too busy for household chores, always has time to critique mine. Slacking off means getting an earful. It's troublesome. Car washing. I guess a drive-through wash won't cut it. It has to be spotless inside and out to pass muster. I detest car washing, especially in this chilly winter season. It's depressing. My daughter's elementary school is now on winter break. But Christmas brings its own set of tasks. Many visit my in-laws for holiday greetings. Relatives, company folks, George's friends. Linda is busy attending to them. As a result, more troublesome tasks are dumped on me. Cooking, dishwashing, shopping, cleaning, answering calls. No time to sit and rest. Eating in the kitchen, standing up, amidst chores. Linda and Mike seem to be enjoying their conversations with the visiting relatives for holiday greetings. Everyone's voices are loud, likely due to the alcohol. Mike serves drinks to Linda. My daughter plays board games with other kids. Everyone seems to enjoy themselves. While I work non-stop, listening to their laughter. It's annual, so I'm somewhat resigned to it. Right, let's give out some gifts. Everyone, here you go, presents for you all. With that, Linda began distributing presents to the children. Oh right, I need to hand out our gifts as well. In a rush, I grabbed the presents I had prepared and left the kitchen. Merry Christmas. Here's a gift from us too, huh? What's wrong? As I approached the children with the gifts, I noticed they all seemed tense. Linda was the only one in a good mood. The contrast between the children and Linda was stark. The children looked at me warily, as if frightened. What's up? What happened? Well. The oldest boy started to say something but then stopped. He glanced between what was in his hand and what my daughter was holding. The boy with a present in his hand, and my daughter with nothing. Like the boy, the other children also had presents. My daughter looked down, a sad expression on her face. Emily, from this year on, there won't be any presents for your child. Eh? Oh, is that so? It's fine if there aren't any presents. But why is it only my child who's excluded? And to announce it like that in front of the other children, that's just cruel. The children around seemed confused as well. Whether Linda could see the situation or not, with alcohol in her system, she cheerfully said. That's right. I thought our gifts were too grand for the child of a poorly educated daughter-in-law. What? I was taken aback by her unexpected words. What? Because I'm only a middle school graduate, gifts for others but not for my daughter? Are you discriminating against my daughter for that reason? Discrimination? That sounds so harsh. It's just a natural distinction. Over these 10 years, I've come to understand exactly your level. Your daughter, inheriting your meager tastes, wouldn't appreciate anything of value we gave her, so it's pointless. How is that a natural? My education has nothing to do with my daughter. Furious, I shouted. Linda's eyes widened in anger. Well, What kind of tone is that to use? I don't care about that right now. No parent would stay silent when their child is insulted. Insulted? Who do you think you are? Your only asset is your youth, and you have nothing else. Just a loser who can only do housework. A good-for-nothing. I am an executive at the company, in charge of the administrative duties. I am far superior to you. That has nothing to do with our daughter. You said something terrible to her. Apologize. Mike, say something. Me? Are you seriously this laid back while your parents and wife are arguing? Is your head filled with nothing but cheer, you fool? Yeah, well, about the presents, Mike tossed a peeled orange into his mouth. Chewing, he suggested. Why don't you give her some money? We're always in her debt, after all. What? You're the only one here getting an allowance and being taken care of. Can't you see our daughter is distressed? She's right there, in plain sight, in front of you. This isn't about whether there are presents or not. The issue is that Linda is hurting our daughter. What a good idea, indeed. That's my son for you. Come on, show some respect to your parent, even if it's just by marriage. That unimpressive gift you're holding, shall I graciously accept it? Linda laughed haughtily. This is the worst. What's with this family? They've always treated me poorly, but this is a new low. Is it because they've been drinking? That's no excuse. You, inhuman. I yelled at Mike. Mike scowled back at me. Then it happened. Is that all you have to say? I flinched at the sound of George's deep, booming voice. George had been silent until now. Sitting deeply in the sofa with his eyes closed, he exuded an immense presence. Yet, he exuded an immense presence. This Christmas, belittled by Linda, unprotected by Mike, and my daughter disregarded. Yet, it seemed something else was about to happen. I felt like crying. But I couldn't back down. No. I have more to say. Yes, I didn't even go to high school, and yes, I lack formal education, but I work hard. Saying I can only do housework is a prejudice. Moreover, my abilities and education have nothing to do with my daughter. When I talked back to George, Mike had a whoa look on his face. As if to say, she must be out of her mind to stand up to our terrifying George. Linda was grinning smugly. No doubt fantasizing about me getting a dressing down from George. I see. I understand your point, Emily. George said, slowly rising to his feet and clenching his fist. I braced myself, closing my eyes and bowing my head. Ouch. The cry came from Mike. George had brought his fist down on Mike's head. Mike was startled by the sudden pain. I was dumbfounded. So was Linda. George looked furious. You fool. What are you sitting there for? What? You're doing nothing while your wife and daughter are being insulted. What does that mean? Ooh, well, it's true that Emily didn't go to high school. If you say so, me too. I know, but... You know, yet you still ridicule people for that. Mike was taken aback by George's angry voice. It seemed like Mike knew but had forgotten or didn't think George's past was significant. George then turned to Linda. I graduated from middle school and went straight to work. Then, I saved up to start my own business. By your logic, I'd also be nothing but a housebound good-for-nothing. Don't think you can insult me and get away with it. George was known to return favors and avenge slights manifold. It was with this indomitable spirit that he grew his company. Now George was furious, feeling insulted. Linda started to panic and make excuses. It's not the same. You and Emily are different. I wasn't speaking ill of you. It's just that Emily being. As Linda mentioned it again, George's face grew even more intimidating. Don't tell me you're unaware of the struggles I've faced. It made us looked down upon by clients and competitors alike. And we've suffered greatly for it. Yes, I know, but that's... Linda was at a loss for words. George seemed as explosive as an erupting volcano in his anger. The sight of him unleashing his fury was terrifying. So, Linda, being the daughter of a loser like me, must also have meager tastes. It's probably because of your poor character that your husband left you. Truly regrettable. Dad. That's not what we're talking about right now. I thought you would have learned from the painful experience. Have you forgotten how much you had to pay your ex-husband for emotional distress? It's disappointing to see you haven't changed. Linda has a past where her marriage fell apart due to marital issues, leading to her spouse leaving her. The divorce happened when Mike was in high school. Linda considered her divorce a blemish on her life and got upset whenever it was mentioned, so the details were never clear. That's why I never inquired in detail about the reason for the divorce. However, from the way George spoke, it was clear that Linda's personality had been the issue. Relatives who had come for holiday greetings were sneaking out, likely eager to escape the unfolding drama. Poor souls, caught in this mess right at the start of the happy holidays. It's nonsense to spend money on someone who doesn't learn from mistakes. After the holidays, you'll no longer be an executive. You'll be switched to a part-time position. What? Linda let out a voice of despair. But it seemed she wouldn't dare to go against George, who held absolute power in the household. Mike, you're always being taken care of by your mother, aren't you? Ooh, yeah. Then you should be the one giving her money. You owe her the most. What? What's the matter? Didn't you just say that yourself? What was that about, then? Were those just empty words? Under George's sharp gaze, Mike hastily pulled out his wallet from his back pocket. A fancy, high-brand wallet. Purchased with the allowance from Linda. In his haste, Mike dropped his wallet onto the feast laid out on the table. The wallet got soaked. Mike extracted wet bills from it and presented them to Linda. Linda pinched the damp bills between her fingers to accept them. Now, it's your turn. George's gaze fixed on Linda. He looked like a hawk eyeing its prey. You've also been under my care. You must have something to give. Ah, yes, of course. Linda rushed to her bag and pulled out her wallet. In her haste, Linda's wallet tumbled from her grasp. Just like Mike earlier. She then added some bills to the money Mike had handed over and gave it to George. I'm always grateful for your support. George snatched the offered money and extended it to my daughter. My daughter, who had been stiff with fear during the adult quarrel, tentatively looked up at George. George said in a low, dignified voice. This is a present from me. Use it for something that will benefit you. My daughter was astounded by the bundle of bills, an amount she had never held before. Emily. Yes. I straightened up and responded. My turn now. I was terrified of what might be said next. Honestly, Linda's nagging would have been easier to handle. As I nervously awaited his words, George slightly softened his voice and said, Would your parents mind if you and your daughter returned home now? If it's all right with your family. Take some of these dishes and pay them a visit. I have some matters to discuss with these two fools. I think it would be fine. I would go home even if my parents said it wasn't okay. It's fine. George pointed to the luxurious dishes ordered from a restaurant. With many guests during the holidays, my in-laws had purchased several high-end dishes. Among them was the most extravagant one. I braced myself for Linda's objection, but she was likely too preoccupied with the upcoming talk from George to react. She didn't say anything. In a rush, I wrapped up the feast and started to clear the table. My daughter joined in to help. Then George said, Good. Let them handle this. Hurry along. At his words, Linda and Mike scrambled to their feet and began gathering plates. My daughter and I exchanged glances, thanked George properly, and left the in-laws' house. My parents were surprised by the sudden visit. But they warmly welcomed my daughter and me. The Christmas celebration at my parents' house was simple as always, with no special decorations. The festive meal consisted only of items bought from the supermarket. The soup was the usual eggplant soup we had regularly. Then the luxurious feast made a grand appearance. My parents were delighted and called my in-laws to express their gratitude. Linda's voice over the phone sounded weak and listless. My daughter and I spent 2 nights at my parents' house before returning home. For the first time since getting married, I had a peaceful Christmas and it was truly blissful. When we got home, a lot had changed. Firstly, the stern talking to from George had a profound effect on Mike and Linda, making them uncharacteristically docile. They no longer nagged or made snide remarks at me. Mike had also stopped siding with Linda. Moreover, Mike's path to eventually succeeding his grandfather as the company president had been cut off. The grandfather appointed a successor to the president from among the employees. He chose someone who had been loyal and made significant contributions to the company over the years. This person was well versed in the business and held in high esteem by the workforce. Honestly, the company is probably in safer hands with him than it ever would have been with Mike. True to the declaration, Linda was removed from her executive position and dismissed before the holiday break ended. She then rejoined the company as a part-time employee. The administrative tasks Linda used to handle were reassigned to someone else, who turned out to be highly efficient, completing tasks faster and more accurately than Linda had. Between the new president and the reassignment of Linda's tasks, I can't help but admire George's knack for personnel decisions. He truly is a formidable CEO. Linda's income plummeted after she was removed from her executive position. As a result, Mike no longer received an allowance from Linda. The employees, who previously flattered Linda for her status as the boss's daughter, changed their attitude. Now seen as someone who incurred George's wrath, they keep their distance from her. Linda has lost the place where she could assert her dominance. Now, she works quietly, diminished in stature. My daughter has become quite critical of Mike. This is because he didn't protect her when Linda was saying those awful things. It's Mike's own fault. Being demeaned by Linda as only capable of household chores motivated me to make a change. I started attending a correspondence high school. Previously, I would do housework while my daughter did her homework. But since the incident, Mike has taken on more household duties, freeing up some of my time. I've been using this time to study. My daughter beams when she sees me dedicated to my studies. She's also started helping out with the household chores on her own initiative and has become more open about sharing details of her school life with me. The confrontation with Linda during the new year made me realize something. I had somewhat resigned myself to the idea that I'm just a middle school graduate. I decided to shed that limiting belief. I am trying to graduate with the best grades in school. I believe I can do it. I won't give rides to strangers. Please come walk. Grinning, Karen, my eldest son's wife, twirls the car keys on her finger as if to flaunt them in front of me. I organize my thoughts about the current situation and feel a mild sense of despair. I wonder how long it will take to get to my eldest son and his wife's new home from here. Following my son's job transfer, they decided to move to the countryside and built a modest house in a residential area a bit far from here. Unfortunately, public transportation only reaches up to a point considerably far from their new home. With a distorted smile of enjoyment, Karen quickly returns to where my son Ryan and my husband, leaving me behind. Oh well, I sighed and took out my mobile phone to search for a bus that could get me as close as possible to my destination. After some research, it seems there is a bus from here, which might reduce the walking distance somewhat. Pulling myself together, I was looking for the bus stop and startled when someone taps my shoulder. Wait, why are you? Surprised by the person I saw upon turning around, I was at a loss for words. My name is Sarah. I am 72 years old this year. Despite my age, thanks to the environment I grew up in, my lower body strength is still strong. After graduating from school, I immediately married into my husband's family, who were business owners, and I worked there. My job involved delivering goods to a store beyond the mountain on foot, so I would travel back and forth across the mountain every day. Taking over for my husband who used to make deliveries by car, and his mother who manned the store. Even after my son Ryan was born, I continued this routine, carrying him on my back. Now, Ryan is grown and seems to be living a fairly happy life with his marriage. I still remember vividly when my eldest son got married. I was surprised when he brought Karen home, nervous yet serious about wanting to marry her, but of course, I gave my consent due to his earnestness. However, Karen seems to dislike me and takes every opportunity to harass me behind the backs of my husband and son. Ryan's kind-hearted nature, extending his care not only to his wife but also to me and my husband, might be something Karen disapproves of. Initially, I kept silent and endured it because I respected Ryan chose her as his partner, but lately, the harassment from Karen has become particularly intense, and I've truly had enough. During one New Year's holiday, I was eagerly anticipating reuniting with them after a long time. I thought that, despite Karen's tendency to harass me, she wouldn't do anything during the New Year's visit when my husband and Ryan were around. However, as soon as Karen arrived for the visit, she said to me, "I want to express my gratitude with a home-cooked meal. So could I please use the kitchen?" I couldn't rudely refuse, so I let her have it. While waiting and occasionally checking to see what would happen next, a sudden explosion came from the kitchen. Rushing in to see what had happened, we found a disaster, a microwave in ruins and milk spilling onto the floor from a fallen carton. Additionally, in her shock, she dropped and then forcefully stepped on a ketchup bottle, causing it to splatter all over, leaving the kitchen in complete disarray. Karen, sitting amidst the chaos and crying about wanting to be helpful, was gently consoled by my husband and Ryan, who could only offer wry smiles. As Ryan was persuading Karen to go to the bathroom, she turned around and gave me a sly smile. My husband had already started cleaning up and didn't see Karen's malicious face. Despite realizing this was another of Karen's harassments, I couldn't express my anger in the situation and ended up silently cleaning up with my husband. Months later, with a job transfer impending, Ryan decided to build a house, anticipating the move. He was originally working at the New York headquarters but was assigned to a branch office, prompting the move. The branch was close to his parents' house, in other words where we lived, so we considered the possibility of living together. But Karen strongly opposed the idea, leading to the decision to construct their own residence. There was a bit of a fuss with Karen over the down payment needed for the new house. This was because Ryan had insisted they would manage the finances for their new home by themselves. While that was a generous thought, I couldn't help but wonder where Karen, a stay-at-home wife, would find the money for it, even if Ryan was working. The day after hearing this from Ryan, I received a call from Karen. She said, "Since you're so thrifty, you must have a lot of money saved up, right? Please give me the money to build our new house." When I pointed out that this was different from what I had been told, she retorted, "Well, I want to look good in front of Ryan too. I've already told him I'd be the one providing the money, so please give it to me as soon as possible." Although I wondered why I should give Karen the money, I decided to do so for Ryan's sake and kept silent. However, after that, I never received a word of thanks from Karen, even as the new house was completed. As the end of the fiscal year approached and Ryan's transfer was officially confirmed, we received an invitation from the newly relocated couple to come and see their new home. "I will send the address to your mobile phone, and don't forget to bring a gift." Karen said so before abruptly hanging up. While I'm not fond of Karen's behavior, it's a house I helped fund. I'm definitely interested in seeing it. I decided to visit my son and his wife's new house with my husband the following weekend. On the day of the visit, we arrived at the airport in the region where the new house was located, and Ryan and Karen were there to pick us up. Originally, we planned to go directly to the new house, but Ryan thoughtfully came to pick us up by car. After reuniting with Ryan and Karen, we decided to have lunch at a food court in the station. Since it had been a while since we last met during New Year's, Karen seemed to behave herself in front of my husband and Ryan, which was a relief. Before we set off for the new house, I decided to use the bathroom. Due to it being lunchtime, everywhere was crowded. After finally using the bathroom and washing my hands, someone suddenly spoke to me from behind. "Aren't you done here yet? Ryan told me to check you in because you're taking too long." Karen said this with a displeased look, glaring at me. Being scolded in front of so many people, I felt intimidated. Pleased with my reaction, Karen smirked. "Are you still using that dirty handkerchief? It's time to throw it away." Seeing the handkerchief in my hand, Karen scoffed and, pointing at the installed jet towel, continued. "Who carries handkerchiefs these days? You don't know about jet towels? What a penny pincher." Our loud conversation attracted unwelcome attention from other patrons. Seeing me shrink away even more, Karen, getting carried away, spoke up. "I don't want to be associated with someone so frugal. I'd almost prefer to pretend we're strangers and I won't give rides to strangers. Please come walk. Grinning, Karen twirls the car keys on her finger as if to flaunt them in front of me. Realizing what she meant, I felt a slight sense of despair as I organized my thoughts about the situation. I wondered how far it was to Ryan and Karen's new house from here. They had moved to a simple residential area far from here. Unfortunately, public transportation didn't reach close to their new house. Oh, I already have the gifts you brought today. Thanks anyway. Saying this with a twisted smile, Karen quickly returns to Ryan and my husband, leaving me behind. After Karen left and things around settled down again. Oh well. I sighed and took out my mobile phone to search for a bus that could get me as close as possible to my destination. After some research, it seems there is a bus from here, which might reduce the walking distance somewhat. Pulling myself together, I was looking for the bus stop and startled when someone taps my shoulder. Wait, why are you? Surprised by the person I saw upon turning around, I was at a loss for words. So, you were here. I've been looking for you. Seeing my husband's face, I felt the tension and anxiety that had gripped me begin to unwind. As we headed to the bus stop, I shared everything with my husband, who, despite his skepticism, followed along. I told him about the harassment from Karen and the finances for the new house. Including today's events, I poured out everything as we rode the bus together. Throughout my account, my husband listened in silence, his frown deepening as the story unfolded. After I finished talking, he simply stated that he would walk with me and remained silent thereafter. Upon hearing this, I urged him multiple times to turn back, but my husband stubbornly refused to do so. Eventually, when the bus reached its final stop, everyone disembarked at once. Now, the real journey began. The distance to Ryan and Karen's new house was considerable, with no public transportation available. Entering the destination into my map app, I saw it would take over 3 hours to arrive. Let's go. Unsure of which direction to go, I was still staring at the map app, but my husband, after stating his intent, started walking without hesitation. I followed him, periodically checking the map app to make sure we weren't going the wrong way. However, the direction my husband started walking in was not wrong at all. After walking for a bit, my phone rang. When I checked the screen, it was a call from Karen, and while I didn't want to answer it, I looked at my husband for help. Noticing my gaze, my husband peered at my phone. With a displeased look, he took my phone and slipped it into his pocket before starting to walk ahead. Realizing I was standing there, gaping in surprise, he looked back and took my hand without a word, and we started walking again. I was surprised by the suddenness of it all and had a lot to say, but those thoughts vanished. My husband continued walking in silence, firmly holding my hand. He never hesitated. Despite several forks in the road, he chose our path without any hesitation. I followed him in silence. As we walked, I could periodically hear my phone vibrating. Eventually, annoyed by the persistence, I pulled on my husband's hand and suggested, "It must be Karen calling. Maybe you should answer it, she's being quite persistent, isn't she?" When I said that, my husband stopped and turned to face me. "Just ignore such a person. More importantly, are you tired?" His concern made me smile, and I made a fist to show my determination and said, "This is nothing compared to when I used to make deliveries. How about you? Are you tired?" "I'm fine too. I'm sorry for all the trouble I've caused you," he murmured apologetically, though it was hard to hear. Following my husband as he resumed walking, I couldn't help but laugh, momentarily forgetting our current situation. Pretending to speak to myself, I began recounting past events to my husband, who led the way. I talked about the times shortly after we were married when I helped with deliveries, the birth of our eldest son, and when he brought home Karen, announcing their marriage. My husband walked in silence but seemed to be listening. Suddenly stopping, my husband turned to face me. "If you take this wide road, it'll be a longer route, but the path is flat. If you take this narrow path, it'll be somewhat rugged, but you'll get there faster. I'm taking the narrow path, what about you?" Touched by my husband's concern, I smiled slyly and quickened my pace to catch up to him. As I passed him, I quipped, "You're asking someone who's crossed mountains for years? Come on, Ryan must be worried. Let's hurry up. With that, I took the lead. Continuing on together, my husband and I eventually emerged into a quiet residential area. Among them, we could see brand new houses. We had finally arrived at our destination. Getting my phone back from my husband, I saw numerous missed calls from Karen but ignored them to check the time. Just as my husband had said, the journey that would normally take over 3 hours was shortened. Feeling the final stretch of effort, I walked with determination until we reached Ryan and Karen's new home. Their car was parked in the garage. As I rang the doorbell, I heard frantic footsteps from inside, and the door swung open energetically. Ryan, looking pale, welcomed us in first. Taking up his offer, we were led to the living room sofa where we could finally relax. Rubbing my tired legs and looking around, I could see that the house was solidly built and impressive. Feeling proud, I took a moment to admire the surroundings, and then Ryan came over, offering us cold drinks. Mom, Dad, I was shocked to hear you were walking all the way to our house. Are you okay? You must be tired, so please stay the night here. Facing Ryan, who looked at us with concern, my husband sharply responded. No, we'll leave once we've settled down. We don't want to stay in a house with such an awful person like Karen. Hearing this, Ryan looked around in surprise, searching for his wife's presence. But she was nowhere to be found, and he hurried upstairs. For a while, there was a commotion coming from upstairs, but eventually, it seemed Karen had resigned herself to the situation and came downstairs with Ryan. When he seated her beside him, Karen looked down, avoiding eye contact with us. Ryan questioned the meaning behind my husband's words. My husband, with a bitter expression, yelled at Karen. You've been deceiving us all this time. I thought you were a somewhat clumsy but charming daughter-in-law. But it turns out you've been causing all sorts of trouble for Sarah. Trembling at my husband's angry voice, Karen shrank in her seat, remaining silent. Ryan tried to intervene and calm my husband, but he wouldn't stop. When you two were building this house, I admired your resolve to manage on your own. Yet, in the end, you ended up siphoning money from Sarah. What were you thinking? Hearing this, even Ryan stopped trying to intervene and looked at Karen. I tried to soothe my husband and asked him to sit on the sofa, and I told the same to my son. While addressing Karen, who wouldn't even look my way, I let out all my feelings. Karen, the money doesn't matter. I wanted to help you two build your home. But it's the attitude that it's taken for granted that's unacceptable. It made me angry. Even as I spoke, Karen didn't lift her face. Ryan, not understanding, kept looking back and forth between Karen and me. Do you know why I gave you the money even though I didn't have to? Karen shook her head in response to my question. It's because I didn't want to burden Ryan. He was trying to handle everything on his own to not impose on us. And he would feel guilty if he knew the money came from me. So I said it was from you, not for your sake. As I spoke more forcefully, Karen, who had always looked down on me, finally lowered her shoulders and started crying. Satisfied that I had said all I wanted to say, I sat back down on the sofa and rubbed my legs. Then, Ryan, trying to grasp the situation, asked me. Wait, Mom. Did you pay for half of this house? Yes, I replied. And Karen made you do it? Yes. Ryan, holding his head in dismay, turned back to Karen, who was crying beside him. What have you done? We agreed we didn't want to burden our parents and would handle it ourselves. You said we had enough savings. My husband added fuel to the fire, accusing Karen further. This good-for-nothing daughter-in-law has been harassing Sarah behind our backs. She messed up the kitchen during the New Year visit as a form of harassment, and today, she made us walk on purpose. Claiming she doesn't give rides to strangers. Karen. Ryan stood up reflexively and scolded Karen strongly. I'm sorry. It's just that I was lonely because you're always busy with work. And I was jealous that you were always caring for your father and mother. Karen jumped off the sofa, crying and apologizing. But my husband, undeterred, grew even angrier. Why did you target Sarah then? Since he cared for me too, why doesn't it show towards me as well? Well, that's because. Perhaps because my husband had a strict look, despite his age. Karen might have thought she'd be scolded if she talked back. Unable to say anything, Karen faced another onslaught from my husband. What about the finances for this house? Why tell only Sarah and not me? Even if you found it hard to talk to me? Calling someone trying to lend you money a penny pincher is rude, isn't it? Hearing this, Ryan looked up sharply at Karen. Seeing Karen silently biting her lip, Ryan confirmed in a trembling voice. Karen. You made Mom give you the money, and even said that to her. Resigned to her fate, Karen nodded repeatedly, tears streaming down her face. Feeling guilty for being unaware, Ryan slumped down on the sofa, holding his head. Disappointed by Ryan and yelled at by my husband, Karen kept apologizing. When my husband demanded the money back, Karen shook her head. I have no savings left, please forgive me. Saying that, Karen pulled a box from under the TV stand in the living room, took out a bank statement from it, and showed its contents. The balance recorded was only a few dollars. Seeing this, my husband is pressing Ryan to consider divorce. You are right, calling my mom, who has always looked after us, a stranger. Anyone who does that is truly a stranger to me. Hearing this, Karen clung to Ryan, wailing and begging him not to divorce her. Nobody could handle Karen after that, and Ryan drove my husband and I to the station. And Ryan said that he began the process of divorcing his wife right away. Ryan explained everything to Karen's parent, and they called me to apologize sincerely, as a proper action from the parents. They even sent me compensation through Ryan. With such honorable parents, it's puzzling how Karen turned out the way she did. As expected, Karen was expelled from the new home and is now reportedly living with her parents. Karen pleaded and cried, but Ryan remained unforgiving, and they are still in the midst of divorce proceedings, even after some time has passed. As for us, we're considering moving from our old house to the clean, new home that's now free of Karen's belongings. Since there's still a considerable mortgage remaining and it wouldn't make sense to demolish the newly built home, Ryan offered for us to live together. Initially, my husband was reluctant for various reasons, but eventually, he gave in to Ryan's persistence. And then, we had settled into Ryan's new home. While Ryan was out at work, we were leisurely sipping tea in the living room. In this quiet residential area, the only sounds were the chirping of birds. During this peaceful time, I decided to ask my husband about our walk at that time. Why did you know the way so well? My husband replied, I used to make deliveries around here back in the day. It's practically my backyard. Seeing him so proud made me laugh. It looks like we'll be spending happy days ahead as a family of 3.